Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to tackle something that can make your work life so much easier, more collaborative, and let's be honest, way less frustrating. We're talking about unlocking workplace communication using something called the social styles model. I mean, we've all been there, right? You feel like you're explaining something perfectly clearly, but the look on your teammate's face tells you might as well be from different planets. It's that feeling where you wonder, did they even hear what I just said? You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that coworker who jumps to a solution before you've even finished explaining the problem. Or on the flip side, the person who buries you in a mountain of data when all you needed was a simple yes or no. These aren't just little quirks, they're actual clashes in our communication styles. And get this, these clashes have a huge cost. Studies show that managers can spend up to 42% of their time just dealing with conflicts that come from these misunderstandings. Think about that. That's almost half of the work week just putting out fires instead of getting things done. But what if I told you it's not actually about you being difficult or your colleague being impossible? What if it's just a difference in style? That's the big idea we're going to unpack today. And this is where the social styles model comes into play. It's this brilliant framework developed by psychologists David Merrill and Roger Reed. And what it does is it helps us understand our outward behavior, not what we're thinking on the inside, but what people can actually see and observe. And it maps it all out using just two key dimensions. So, how does this whole thing work? Well, it all boils down to two simple building blocks that really define how we interact with everyone around us. Okay, first up, we have assertiveness. This is just a way to measure how we try to influence other people. So on the high end, you've got folks who speak up, they share their opinions, they try to persuade you. And on the low end, you have people who are more likely to go with the flow, to accommodate others, and maybe keep their own views a little more private. And the second building block is responsiveness. This one's all about how we show our emotions on the outside. Someone with high responsiveness is really open, they focus on relationships, they're all about harmony. And someone with low responsiveness, they tend to be more reserved, more focused on the task at hand, on logic, on data. Now here's where the magic happens. When you take those two scales and plot them on a grid, like an X and Y axis, you get four clear, distinct social styles: the analytical, the driver, the amiable, and the expressive. All right, so let's meet these four styles. And as we go through them, see if you can spot yourself, or maybe some of your coworkers. First up, let's meet the analytical style. If they had a motto, it would probably be, hang on, we really need to think this through. They are low on assertiveness and low on responsiveness, which means they're careful and super task-focused. For analyticals, getting it right is the most important thing. They love organization, they love structure, and they will ask a ton of questions because they want all the data before they make a move. Accuracy is everything. Now, the potential downside? When they get stressed, that need for data can turn into analysis paralysis, and they can sometimes come across as a little distant or overly critical. Next, we have the driving style. If you've ever worked with someone who just says, enough talk, let's just go for it, then yeah, you've probably met a driver. They are high on assertiveness, but low on responsiveness. Drivers are all about action and getting results. They make decisions quickly, they like to be in control, and they work super fast and efficiently. Their focus is on the what, the end goal, not so much the how or how people feel about it. The pitfall here? Under pressure, they can become a little autocratic or impatient, kind of steamrolling over people to get to that finish line. All right, moving on to our third style, the amiable. Their go-to phrase might be something like, so, how does everyone feel about this? Amiables are low on assertiveness but high on responsiveness, which makes them the natural team builders. They are amazing listeners, they hate conflict, and they're all about creating a supportive, inclusive environment where everyone feels heard. The challenge for them? Sometimes they can avoid necessary conflict or be a little too accommodating just to keep the peace. And last, but definitely not least, we have the expressive style. Their catchphrase is probably, whoa, I just had a great idea. They're high in both assertiveness and responsiveness, so they bring all the energy. Expressives are spontaneous, they're creative, and they love getting everybody else excited about their big picture vision. But when the pressure is on, they can sometimes get a little disorganized or forget about the important follow-through details. Okay, so now we know the four styles. But here's the thing, just knowing your style or your boss's style isn't really the point. The real power comes when you use this knowledge to adapt your own behavior to bridge those communication gaps. So let's imagine a classic scenario. Let's say you're a relationship-focused amiable. How on earth do you effectively communicate with a task-focused driver who just wants to get to the bottom line, like yesterday? Talk about a potential clash, right?
Well, here's the playbook. First, and this is absolutely critical, do not take their directness personally. It's not about you, it's about their intense focus on efficiency. Second, when you talk to them, try to be more decisive and really focus on the results. And finally, lead with the bottom line. Give them the conclusion first, then offer up the details if they ask. And this works both ways. If an analytical is talking to an expressive, maybe they should focus less on the tiny details and more on the exciting vision to get them on board.
And you know what? When you start making these small little adjustments, the payoff is absolutely huge. And this isn't just some nice theory. There's actual data that shows it leads to way, way better collaboration. Just look at this. A survey found that an incredible 92% of people who were trained in social styles said it made it easier to deal with conflict. 92%. That is a massive, massive impact.
And the benefits just keep coming. 86% felt more confident when they had to handle conflict. 71%, almost 3/4, said they were able to avoid potential fights altogether, and almost half said they just had fewer conflicts, period. For any team, this is an absolute game changer.
So let's be super clear about this. The goal here is not to change your personality. If you're a deep-thinking analytical, nobody's asking you to become a super bubbly expressive. The real key here is versatility. It's about learning to adapt your outward behavior just enough to make the other person more comfortable. Because when you do that, your message has a much better chance of actually landing. So there you have it. We've gone through the problem, the framework, and the incredible payoff. You've met all 4 styles, and I bet you already started to peg a few of your colleagues, and maybe even yourself. So the only question left is, now that you know, how are you going to adapt?